Morning, everybody. This is a video request, and if you have a video request, you can go to assholeconsulting.com, where you could send me your request and payment for me and my time to put together and answer your questions, or just regular old private consulting services on all matters that are legal. I think I will take money for anything, pretty much, as long as it's legal. So, got a video request, and it's from Ray. And this is about regressive and progressive taxes. So let me explain that first before I get into his email. You may have heard this among political or economic circles, but a progressive tax is the more money you make, the higher your percentage of taxation. So if you only make $10,000, you could have a zero tax rate. From 10 to 20,000, you have a 5% tax rate. From 20 to 50,000, you have a 20% tax rate, and then if you make 100,000 or more, you're an evil bourgeoisie bastard and need to be killed, and you get a 90% tax rate. Different countries have different rates of progressive taxation. In the U.S., I think our top rate is 40. I'd have to look it up. I'm not anywhere near the top income bracket. And states also have progressive income taxation as well, typically, like California and Minnesota. Then there's a thing called a flat tax, and that is where it's the same percentage no matter how much money you make. So like a sales tax is an example of a flat tax. Everybody in Minnesota pays a 7% sales tax. We don't care if you're poor, we don't care if you're rich, everyone's paying 7%. And then you have a regressive taxation. Now, this is rare. I haven't actually seen it in its literal linguistic sense. Like, meaning the poorer you are, the higher rate you pay. And here's where the liberal and the lefts like to confuse things a little bit, and you could see that there's been a slight nuance or a change in what they're talking about regressive. They will say, no matter what the stated rate of the tax is, let's say it's a flat tax, like a sales tax, 7%. Some liberals and leftists will still claim that's a regressive tax rate because as a percentage of their income, the poor people are paying a higher rate. Technically, what a regressive tax should be or would be is you make $10,000, it'd be punishing you for being poor. Like, you fool, you made $10,000, we're going to tax you 50% of it to give you an incentive to get your ass into the higher income tax brackets and work more. That would be a truly regressive tax rate, but I have not seen that. You will see regressive taxation usually referred to, well, cable, which you shouldn't have if you're poor. But internet access, whoa, that's a regressive tax because, the poor people can't afford it. It's like, fuck you, work hard. Now, I know nowadays it's hard to work hard if there's no jobs, but, that's another debate for another time. So, with that in mind, let us read from Ray. Ray writes, how much would you charge to put together a video where you simplify, explain, expand, or denounce this premise? Assumption. So he's going to give the assumption. A tax on a business is effectively becomes a cost of delivering a product/service for the business, which gets passed on to the customers into the price of a product/service. In other words, so tax is just another expense, and yes, it is. And it's not an assumption. That's a fact. Businesses won't be in business if there's no profit. This is one of those things where fifth graders can understand communism is stupid, or there's something seriously flawed with it. Where we should just tax corporations more. Well, okay, the corporation, which is owned by shareholders, if you tax them, you don't even tax them 100%. Let's do it simple. Let's say you tax them 100%. No one's going to invest their money in a company or set up a business. There won't be a stock market. No one will go. There will be no IPOs, because why would anyone part with their hard-earned money to invest in a company when there will be no profits? See? And it doesn't have to be 100%. After a while, there's a thing called the cost of capital, where I have certain investments. It's not the only investment I can make with my money. I can invest in a foreign overseas country. I can invest in my own house. I can pay off debts. There's other things I could do. So not only would 100% tax rate not work, if you get like 50, 60, 80, the socialist dream of a tax rate, I'm going to say, whoa. Why would I invest there? I could go pay. I got better things to do with my money. So you have to keep taxes pretty low, as you do other expenses as well, so that the money you invest, if you invest $1,000 and you're only making $1 in profit per year, that's not worth your time. You need like 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 5%, depends on the individual. But so yes, a tax, it will be passed on, because if it is not passed on, the company will lose money, it'll go bankrupt, Barack Obama will bail them out. I mean, I'm just kidding. George Bush will bail them out. I'm sorry. In theory, if businesses don't pass on these expenses, they will lose money. They will not, and they will cease to exist. They'll go bankrupt. They won't have any more money. Their employees won't show up. They won't be able to pay their suppliers and all that other stuff. So that is not an assumption. That is a fact. Now, premise one. Corporate taxes are effectively a regressive tax on the poor, since the price of business tax costs within products are equally passed on to all customers, rich and poor alike. Yet the poor can least afford to pay that cost. Now, yes, this is the functional use, I guess, what would be used in academia and economic circles, not my literal interpretation of regressive tax. But yes, corporate taxes, corporations sell to everybody. You could make the argument, well, Tiffany's, the diamond place, they sell to rich people. So in that one particular case, it won't apply. But evil Walmart and evil Big Oil and all these evil companies that sell to pretty much everyone, equally distributed. Yes, you are going to that corporate tax, which is 40% stated, by the way, in the United States, and then you have dividend taxes, which is another technically corporate income tax. Depends on your income level, but you're looking at around a 50% tax rate. So, yay. But yes, those costs are then passed on to the poor people in the form of higher prices, and this kind of results in, well, you see, big oil is a perfect thing. I mean, I think what the actual gasoline cost of a gallon of gas is, what, a cent or two, and the rest is all taxes. I don't know, it's probably, taxes aren't that high on it, but I wouldn't doubt it if taxes account for at least half of the price of oil, or price of gas, rather. But instead of going to the government saying, you motherfuckers, with your 50 effective percent tax, well, the effective rate is, let's just say 40 stated, I don't want to get into that argument, with your very large corporate tax rate, these costs are your gas taxes, your sales taxes, your flat taxes. All those taxes are driving up gas, and I can't get my kids to school. So that's exactly, yeah, that is true. You could say tobacco tax is another example. Walmart's taxes, everyone shops at Walmart. Poor people shop at Walmart. You could say companies that are intended to help out poor people, a corporate tax on them is the worst thing you could probably, well, not the worst thing you could do, but it's certainly not helping any poor people. So yes, these poor people who keep voting to jack up and stick at those evil corporations really are just shooting themselves in the foot. Of course, I can't say it that all poor people are lazy. They're not, because the economy is such shit. But the lazy poor people are too lazy to go and figure out, just think that they deserve a welfare check and that corporations are evil. They deserve this shooting of the foot, because if they're too lazy to go and think through the actions of higher corporate taxes increases the cost of my products. They're too lazy to think through that. They're probably too lazy to go look for a job. So those people deserve it. Premise 2, many businesses need to employ higher income earners for various reasons, who in turn pay progressive tax rates. But negotiations with higher income earning employees are effectively based on net income purchasing power, i.e. after tax, and not on theoretical gross incomes. Thus, the progressive income tax expense is part of the cost of a business must endure to hire the various higher earning employees they need. Effectively, progressive taxation becomes a regressive tax on the poor, just like any other corporate tax, since income tax expenses are inserted into the price of products and services that customers buy. Again, that is a brilliant observation. I've never heard anyone make that observation, and it's not a theory. It's again not an assumption or a premise, or you should even be making an argument. This is true. You can see this in the most leftist communist shithole known as San Francisco. If you're going to live in San Francisco, because of their various regulations, their taxes, California state income taxes, and San Francisco, oh my goodness, everyone just has to live there. I'm not mocking, this is not a gay person I'm impersonating your average San Franciscan. The gay people are probably more Everybody Castro Street, go to Castro Street. It's pretty fun. So anyway, everything has to be perfect, and So what these people end up paying is huge premiums in living, food, all that other stuff, just to live in the Bay Area. But yes, you're right. If we're going to progressively increase taxes on rich people or high income earners, they're going to say, hey, you know what? I just need $100,000, and the company would. Let's say there was no income taxes. Let's just, for the sake of it, easy, say there's no income taxes. Well, the company now only has to increase the price of its products to cover that $100,000 salary. But if you're going to tax someone at a 50% tax rate, that person must now earn $200,000 in order to have that same purchasing power. So now that those costs have doubled, and now the prices have to be increased a commensurate amount to cover those expenses. So yes, you are correct. You are true. Now, I should really do this because I like to predict the next argument of leftists because they're easily predictable, because you know where it's going to go. They'll say, well, corporate executives make too much money. And they'll also say, who was the douche that wrote the letter to Wells Fargo, and they should have fired that guy's ass, saying like, well, you should take $3 billion and give everyone a $10,000 raise, and you could lead the way and show how progressive you are. And it's like, no, that's the shareholders' money. They had an expected rate of return, but more so to preempt the argument that leftists are going to make, that it's the evil. You're looking at cost, you're looking at taxes, you're looking at employees. The left and the retort is going to be, yeah, but it's this small little upper class senior management, executive management compensation. If you look at any company, I should say any because I'm sure there's a couple smaller companies where it's like, a consulting business, obviously they're going to be highly paid. But if you look at GM, you look at your Apples, you look at all these evil corporate, big oil, Exxon, all that. Go ahead, calculate the executive compensation of all of them, and then divide it, and calculate what percentage that is of total expenses. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. And then compare that, what the executive team makes, to what all the other employees make. It's not. Again, it's a fraction. So it's this pipe dream. It's this delusion that the left has that that all that money, if we just tax the executives, then all the money in the world, they'd have enough money for all their dreams, which they never will. It's not true. So I should actually go calculate some specific numbers on that. I looked at it one time for a couple companies, but I should do it for ExxonMobil. So, in any case, well, thanks for the letter there, Ray. Hope that answered your questions. And again, if any of you guys had a request or questions, go to assholeconsulting.com and learn for a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time infinitely more than what your professors are ever going to teach you. Toodles.